Welcome to Fantastic Vision. Please subscribe us before you watch today's video. 3 years ago, in order to restrict Huawei's development, the United States forcibly revised its chip rules and required chip manufacturing giants, such as TSMC and other US technology, to stop cooperating with Huawei. Since then, Huawei's high-silicon Kirin chips have fallen into the fate of becoming out of print. For ordinary companies, this posture would have withered long ago when facing the United States. For example, Japan's Toshiba, France's Alstom, and China's ZTE have all been maliciously suppressed by the United States. The results are not surprising, and the development of the companies has been greatly affected, and they have not been able to turn around until now. But Huawei is different. Although it has suffered setbacks due to chip problems in the past 3 years, Huawei has not stopped its pace and still adheres to the route of self-research of technology. When the chip problem was not solved, Huawei started to develop the system first. It was against this background that the Hongmeng system was launched. It has now become the third largest mobile phone operating system in the world, with the number of users already exceeding 100 million. This month, Huawei Mate 60 Pro was launched, equipped with Kirin 9000S chip. Although it is made of 7 nanometers process, its meaning is completely different. The emergence of the Kirin 9000S chip marks that my country has broken the US chip blockade, and it also means that Huawei has completely solved the problem of being stuck. Huawei Mate 60 Pro mobile phone has attracted much attention since its launch, and the source of its chip has always been a mystery. The author of this article believes that although no test unpacking was carried out, and no electron microscope scanning was used to study the internal structure of the chip, judging from the reaction in the United States after the release of Huawei Mate 60, it can be initially judged that the chip of the mobile phone is domestically produced. The popularity of Huawei's Mate 60 mobile phone exceeds those of the much-hyped mobile phones, and Huawei has always remained silent on the source of the chip, which is very different from the approach of other companies in launching new mobile phones. It can be speculated that Huawei's chips may be independently developed and manufactured in China. In addition, the Huawei Mate 60 chip also shows advanced performance, comparable to 7 nanometers chips, which further strengthens the possibility that the chip is domestically produced. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Raimondo declared in an interview that the United States will never sell top artificial intelligence chips to China, but at the same time stated that it will continue to sell chips to China. Through Raimondo's series of statements, we can see the United States' attitude towards Huawei's Mate 60 chip. Raimondo mentioned the United States' leading position in the fields of semiconductor design and software in order to cover up its policy of restricting and blocking Huawei chips, and emphasize its own technological advantages. Secondly, Raimondo did not clearly define what process the top chip in the United States is, but used the most advanced and cutting-edge vocabulary to define it. This is because the United States is unwilling to disclose the manufacturing process level of Huawei chips to avoid exposing the strength of Huawei chips that is equal to, or even surpasses, that of the United States. Finally, Raimondo made it clear that the United States will continue to export chips to China, but did not specify the technology level and restrictive policies. It can be speculated that the United States will use Huawei chips as a standard, block other chips that exceed this standard, and dump chips that meet this standard. Judging from Raimondo's statement, the United States evaluation results of Huawei's Mate 60 chip are very important and are also a touchstone for the United States technological development of Huawei. If Huawei Mate 60 chips are confirmed to be made in China, the United States is likely to impose a stricter blockade on Huawei's chip manufacturing technology and strictly dump chips that exceed this standard. For the United States, the birth of Huawei Mate 60 Pro is a major blow to its prestige. According to the latest reports from foreign media, U.S. White House Security Advisor Sullivan recently said, "The United States still cannot see through Huawei's technology, and the Biden administration needs to further study the chip technology of this mobile phone." The United States has established a specialized technical team to study the Kirin 9000S chip. This detail is actually quite interesting. On the one hand, this proves that the Kirin 9000S chip is indeed purely domestic. Otherwise, with the technical background of the United States, the origin of the Kirin 9000S chip can be seen at a glance, and there is no need to form a special technical team. On the other hand, this also proves that the top US officials are a little panicked. They can't figure out how Huawei solves the chip problem. The unknown is the biggest fear, and it is also what America is most worried about. Going back to Huawei Mate 60 Pro, according to media disassembly, it was found that the localization rate of Huawei Mate 60 Pro at the hardware level has exceeded 90%. And the core components are 100% domestically produced. Some friends may still have the impression that Huawei also released some new phones in the past 2 years, but without exception, none of them support 5G networks. But this time on Huawei Mate 60 Pro, Huawei has completely solved it and even surpassed it. According to media tests, the download speed of Huawei Mate 60 Pro is as high as 856.09 megabits per second, while the download speed of ordinary 5G mobile phones is around 500 megabits per second. This result can support two facts. One is that Huawei has completely solved the production problem of 5G mobile phones, and the other is that Huawei not only solved the production problems of 5G mobile phones, but also achieved a better solution, making Huawei Mate 60 Pro the leader in 5G mobile phones. I have to admit that Huawei is indeed amazing. From being blocked to having nothing, all business lines shrank, but now it has completely turned around. Huawei has experienced a painful 3 years. But these 3 years have also taught Huawei a lot and made Huawei stronger. Ren Jingfei has a right saying, "What cannot kill Huawei will eventually make Huawei stronger." And I personally believe that Huawei Mate 60 Pro is destined to be recorded in history and become a highlight in the history of China's technological rise. Such an epoch-making mobile phone is worth owning by every Chinese.